Were the '86 Celtics the best team ever? Let's find out.
Basketball. To win, right? But not just to win individual games. The ultimate goal is to win a championship. Of course, basketball is a team sport. Championships are won by the most complete, most inspired team. Every champion deserves credit, but the question on my mind is, who's the greatest team of all time?
Before we get into this convo, I want to know from anybody in the crowd, who is your favorite team and why? One, who's your favorite player and why? And why do you love basketball? The type of content I put out here is based off of our kid dreams on what we loved as kids and, you know, what we used to watch TV for and look out for these players for. So I want to hear a story like that. Feel free to share it in the comments, and let's get back.
Apologies to Bill and Wilt. I have a list of 8 teams since 1970 that I want to look at as having a claim to that distinction.
Okay.
It is a loaded question, and one that I ultimately can't answer. Is it the teams that were front runners from beginning to end? The ones who were unbeatable at their peak? Maybe the ones who tapped into something special and overcame countless obstacles? There is no right answer.
Kobe.
It's your job to make your own.
Get a rest in peace to Kobe real quick.
Call. And it's my job to make the case.
Magic.
So today, I'll be making the case for the 1986
Parish.
Boston Celtics as the greatest basketball team of all time.
Larry. Can I get a Larry in the comments if you're here for the Larry Bird, man? Shout out all my Larry Bird fans, man. Shout out all my Larry Bird fans in the comments.
Some quick background. In the 1985 NBA Finals, the Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Celtics behind the heroic efforts of Magic Johnson and Finals MVP Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes, sir.
It was the first time in history that the Lakers had defeated the Celtics in the finals, going back as far as 1959. In the ensuing offseason, the Celtics made key roster moves, licked their wounds, then rattled off a league-high 67 wins on their way to raising the franchise's 16th championship banner. Their 67-15 record stands as the best record in Celtics history.
Wow.
And their 15-3 playoff record serves as a testament to their aptitude on both ends of the court. They trotted out the original Big Three of Robert Parish, Kevin McHale, and the immortal Larry Bird, a dynamic backcourt of Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge, and boasted a talented bench anchored by former league MVP Bill Walton.
Wow.
Now, before we go any further, I want to reach out to some of you out there. Some of you might be a little jaded about this team, and that's because some of the most prominent and influential figures in sports media were around for and swear by this team. Your Bill Simmons, your Jackie McMullins, your Bob Bryans, they all have a connection to this squad in some way or another.
Nasty.
So the discourse around the '86 Celtics has always had a certain amount of Boston-centric bias. I want you to know that I have no such bias. I was born and raised in Kansas. I don't give a shit about Boston. Dunkin' Donuts can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. And I'm here to tell you that just because those writers were a little bit biased doesn't mean that they're wrong. With that said, where else do we start with the '86 Celtics than with Larry Bird?
Obviously.
1986 saw Bird take home his 3rd straight MVP, joining the historic company of just Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell.
Wow.
Never before had a forward submitted a better season than Bird's 7th campaign. He slapped up a 26, 10-7, and was decimal points away from submitting a 50.
See, when we do talk about GOAT status, there's something that I always add with Larry Bird. It's the all-around. You know what I mean? Because you could be considered a really good player, but all-around. When you put his stats up against a lot of other people, all-around, he has those extra stats, the extra assists, the extra rebounds, the things that really matter in the game.
50, 40, 90 season. The man had a superlative basketball IQ and remains, for my money, the clutchest player to ever put leather through nylon. He had a blend of all-around skills that began garnering him GOAT talk from people like Bob Cousy and Jerry West. His tenacity on the boards defied his 6'9" frame. His creativity was tantamount to Tesla, and his infectious passing gave the team an identity that remains as impressive and timeless now, some 35 years later, as it was back then.
I was nasty.
He finished the season ranked 7th in rebounds, 4th in points, 13th in assists, 8th in steals, and 2nd in minutes played. So elevated was his level of play that he admitted to getting bored in games and looking for ways to entertain himself, like taking increasingly ridiculous shots or playing portions of games left-handed.
Wow.
At the other forward spot was Kevin McHale. After
McHale was a
back-to-back
beast,
6th
too.
Man of the Year awards as a super sub, 86 was McHale's first season as a starter, and he immediately began producing at an all-NBA level. With his 6'10 height and unsettlingly long limbs, McHale earned a reputation as one of the great two-way players in the league. Defensively, he was mobile and springy enough to move with quicker swingmen, while being long and strong enough to contest interior scorers. Offensively, there's a reason that Olajuwon and McHale are the two names that get mentioned whenever someone talks about post players.
It's crazy.
Opponents trapped in McHale's torture chamber were subjected to an array of moves that left them confounded, wondering where on earth the man went and how the hell he'd gotten there. You never knew what he was going to throw at you. He'd combine fakes into an up and under, pivot into an uncontestable fallaway, or whatever else struck his fancy. It's still striking to see him twist and wind through defenders with his moves the same way Kyrie Irving splits defenders with his handle. Averaging 21 points and 8 rebounds a game on an otherworldly 57% field goal percentage, McHale was a luxury for Boston. He would take on the toughest defensive assignment, allowing Bird to roam, and scored with enough efficiency and volume that his counterpart never had to carry the full offensive burden. Rounding out the big three was the man in the middle, the Chief,
Parish.
Robert Parish.
Yep.
As the unsung hero of the team, Parish doesn't get talked about nearly as much as Bird and
I'm
McHale.
not gonna lie. If y'all want me to do look into something about Parish, I'm interested in it because I never really did. What he just said was a fact. I always look at Bird, McHale come up in conversations, but Parish I never dove into.
But make no mistake, the Chief was dangerous.
Ugh.
Keeping in mind that
That was
these
nasty.
stats don't include Bill Russell because of a lack of
Nasty.
recorded statistics, Parish is still the Celtics' all-time leader in offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, blocks, and is still the NBA's leader in games played.
Wow.
You could rely on Chief for 16 and 10 with Duncan-esque consistency. The man was always in shape and feasted on opposing defenses simply by outrunning them. God only knows how many points he scored because he hustled his way down the court, setting up easy outlet passes. He shot well from the field, was a good free throw shooter, had a reliable jumper, defended,
I never looked
rebounded,
into his game.
set Steven Adams-like picks, and did all the little things. There wasn't a ton of room
Nasty.
for heroics on such a loaded roster, so you couldn't count on Parish jumping out at you with a 39-point game, but he embraced being the third option the same way Scottie Pippen embraced being the second. Never forget that Robert Parish held his own in the age of giants against Ralph Sampson, Elijah, Kareem,
Nasty.
Moses, Ewing,
Ugh.
and the rest of them.
It's crazy.
At point guard was Dennis Johnson, one of the most underrated players ever. That's a video for another time, though.
Yeah.
For the Celtics, DJ
If they got a video on Dennis Johnson, let me know about the video. I'll look into it because it's like I dove into this Larry Bird world recently, and I've been, impressed by all the things I've been finding out. But it's a team game. It's a team sport. You know what I mean?
filled his role as the best defensive guard of his era. With 9 straight all-defensive selections from 79 to 87, only Kobe made more all-defensive teams as a guard.
Wow.
He was the best matchup on Magic of any player in the league, set the table for everyone on his team, and consistently came through in money time. He and Bird had what some refer to as a telepathic connection, making tight wire action between them routine.
It's crazy.
He was the ringleader of the squad, and Bird still calls him the best player he ever played with. At the other guard was Danny Ainge, a reliable double-digit
Yeah, I don't
scorer
know
and
about
wily
that.
little rascal that thrived on riling up the opposition and getting under their skin. Ainge was also one of the great shooters of the era and went on to demolish the single-season three-point record in 1988. A talented multi-sport athlete, Ainge remains the only high schooler to be named a first-team All-American in
Wow.
football, baseball, and basketball.
That's crazy.
And coming off the bench was the Celtics' secret weapon, Bill Walton.
Wow.
Drafted first overall by the Portland Trailblazers in 1974,
Yo, if they got a video on Walton, let me know, man. Give me some advice on a Walton video.
Walton had a transcendent stretch of basketball in the late 70s, guiding the Blazers to the NBA championship in 77 and winning league MVP in 78. Injuries derailed his career at the end of his 78 season, though, and he played in just 14 games over the next 4 seasons.
Wow.
By 86, Walton was a liability and a shell of the player he once was. Looking for redemption and one more chance to be a part of something special, he remained the biggest question on everyone's mind. Could his body withstand the grueling championship campaign these Celtics were setting out on?
That's crazy.
Well, in the 100 games that the Celtics played that season, Walton played in 96 of them.
That's crazy.
He won the 6th Man of the Year award thanks to his size, smarts, rebounding ability, and defensive instincts. He was still every bit of the best passing big man ever, and found a kindred spirit in Bird, who also reveled in elevating the talent level of his teammates and in the fine details of basketball. To boot, Walton added an Andy Bernard dynamic to the team. He had had his good old days and seen them drain through his fingers. Yet here he was, once again, with a chance to be a part of something historic.
That's crazy.
Completely aware and appreciative of the fact that this was and would always be the good old days of Celtics basketball. In all, the roster touted 5 Hall of Famers.
Wow.
5.
That's crazy.
The whole lineup. And every starter on the team was a double-digit scorer.
Wow.
They gelled together to form a hive mind presence, assimilating into nothing short of Bird's brainchild. If Bird were cutting, DJ would put the ball where it was supposed to be the second it was supposed to be there. If McHale was rolling on some poor soul in the post and got doubled, Ainge would be in the perfect place for a kickout. If Parish got open down the court, you could bet that the ball would find him. Emulating Bird's all-around prowess, the Celtics could beat you in any which way.
Money.
Whatever you did,
crazy.
They did better. If you had a speedy, heady guard, you had the pleasure of being locked down by Dennis Johnson.
Wow.
If your calling card was your big men, you had to contend with the greatest front court of all time. Not razor sharp defensively, the hive mind will beat you into a pulp with their passing. Your offense isn't clicking on every conceivable cylinder. You would be swarmed, you would turn the ball over, and every shot you took would be smothered. And if you let the game stay close down the stretch, Larry Bird would put the nails in your coffin.
What was that?
They had answers for everything.
Yo.
They could change their style of play on a whim and excel at it.
It's crazy.
Bird, Ainge, and backup point guard Jerry Seasting were all dead-eye shooters. The big men were some of the best post players to ever play.
It's crazy.
They could put out an absolutely massive lineup with Bird at the 2.
That pass will always be the nastiest. One of them nasty.
McHale at the 3, and Parish and Walton in the middle. They could go small with no loss of quality with McHale at center and Bird at the 4. Craziest of all, they really wouldn't even need to size up or size down. The 86 Celtics are still one of the only teams in history to be able to play a small ball style with a gargantuan starting lineup. Everyone was mobile enough to push the pace and stay active.
Crazy.
Their inside-outside proficiency could space the floor. They could defend and corral nearly all types of scorers, and their passing would carve defenses to shreds, all without giving up an inch. And, if we're checking boxes, the Boston Garden in the 1980s was the best home court in sports.
Damn.
Already some 50 years old, the dingy dungeon halls of the Garden had been host to some of the greatest players and moments in sports history, offering comfort to its allies and peril to its enemies. The crowd was insatiable and earned a reputation for both their devotion and potential for viciousness. The rafters were littered with championship banners and retired numbers in such quantity that they became superfluous. The Celtics took advantage of this and ran with it, notching a 50-1 home record, including the playoffs.
That is crazy, bro.
Were they perfect? No. They weren't that athletic, and they had a tendency every now and then to get bored and take their foot off the gas against bad teams. Could they have gotten to 70 or even 72 wins?
Wow.
Sure, and you can hold that against them. But tell me, when we're talking about something as grand as the greatest team of all time, how much do those 3 to 5 regular season games really matter?
This was part 1 of making the case about the 1986 Celtics. I mean, what's your view so far? Where's your standpoint now? I'm interested in knowing what you guys' views on and opinions are of this topic. I'm going to do part 2. I'm going to put that up on the channel. Make sure you definitely go look out for that. And subscribe and hit the top bell. We're at 35,000. Help me get to 1 million. See y'all on the next one.